All right, let's kick off this deep dive. And today we're heading into some pretty fascinating territory. We're going to be looking at turkey hunting, but through the lens of the Apache people.
Oh, that's going to be cool.
Yeah. And our main source for all of this is a book called Turkey Hunting The Apache Way by Oliver, what was his?
Shadow Hawkstone.
Shadow Hawkstone.
Right. Oh, right.
Shadow Hawkstone. And what's really interesting about this book is that it's part of a larger series
Yeah.
that kind of focuses on all the practical skills and philosophies that the Apache used for hunting and surviving in the American Southwest.
Right.
And when they say Apache, they're specifically talking about the Chiricahua Apache.
Right. Right.
But one of the things that I really appreciated about the book was that it wasn't just like, here's how you kill a turkey.
Right.
They really emphasized, this whole philosophy of being in harmony with nature and respecting the animals you hunt and only taking what you need to survive.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that really resonated with me too. It's not just about like bagging the biggest trophy or anything like that. It's about this deeper connection with nature and, recognizing that you're part of this larger ecosystem.
Yeah. And I think that's something that's super relevant today, even if you're not a hunter.
Sure, for sure.
Just that idea of respecting the environment, respecting the resources that we have. But what was cool is that the book really gets into the nitty-gritty of wild turkey behavior and their vocalizations, and even some pretty clever decoy tactics that were used by the Apache.
Yeah.
So we're going to dive into all of that today.
Awesome.
But to kick things off, I was really fascinated by how the book starts by talking about turkey anatomy. Like it goes into all these details that I never even considered.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing how much you can learn about an animal just by looking at its physical characteristics.
Yeah, for sure.
So for example, did you know that a turkey's feathers, they play a crucial role in its survival? Like those iridescent feathers, they provide amazing camouflage.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's they can just vanish right before your eyes. And then their legs are so strong and powerful. They're built for both speed and agility. It's essential for evading predators like, foxes, coyotes, even bobcats.
Makes sense.
Yeah, every aspect of their anatomy is geared towards survival in the wild.
And their beaks, they're not exactly delicate, are they?
No, not at all. Their beaks are short and strong, perfectly designed for their diet. And speaking of diet, turkeys are adaptable and omnivorous, which means their diet changes with the seasons, So in the fall, they might be feasting on acorns and nuts, and then in the spring, it's more insects and even small reptiles.
So they're opportunistic eaters.
Exactly. They take advantage of whatever food sources are available. And their digestive system is pretty amazing, too. They have this special pouch called a crop, where they store food, think of it like their personal pantry, and then their stomach, which is called a gizzard, grinds up that food.
How does it do that?
It uses small stones that they swallow, kind of like a built-in rock tumbler.
Whoa, that's pretty wild.
It is, and it allows them to process a wide range of foods really efficiently. And all these adaptations, from their camouflage to their diet, contribute to their role in the ecosystem. They help disperse seeds, they control insect populations, and they contribute to the overall biodiversity of their habitat.
It's amazing how all these little things are connected, right?
Totally. It's all part of a bigger picture.
Yeah. Now, the chapter on turkey calls totally blew my mind.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I had no idea these birds were such chatterboxes.
Right. They have a whole vocabulary. It's like a secret language.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So what are some of the calls they use?
Okay, well, you've got the cluck. That's like their basic, hey, okay.
To other turkeys, like just a way to communicate. And then you have the purr that signals contentment, often heard when they're feeding.
Ah, so they're happy purring away.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
And then there's the yelp. Both hens and gobblers use it to locate each other, especially during mating season, like their long-distance call.
Okay.
And of course, we can't forget the gobble. That unmistakable sound of the male turkey.
Oh, yeah. That's like their anthem?
It is. It's how they attract mates, let everyone know who's boss, and that gobble can carry for miles, echoing through the trees.
Oh, wow.
But there are other calls too, like the cut. It's a short, sharp yelp, can express excitement or alarm. And then there's the keeper. That's a high-pitched call used by the young turkeys.
What's that for?
To stay in contact with their moms.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
So they really do have a call for everything.
It seems that way. There's this really cool anecdote in the book about an elder named Hastily who's teaching his grandson, Nantan, to observe turkeys before even thinking about hunting them. And he has, to be a great hunter, you must first be a great observer. I thought it was really insightful.
Yeah, that's so true. And it applies to way more than just hunting, right? Like, observation is key to understanding and connecting with the world around us, no matter what we're
Yeah.
doing.
Right. So we've talked about the calls, but what about these decoys? The Apache were known for some pretty clever decoy tactics, right?
Oh, yeah. They were masters of deception when it came to decoys. I
Yeah.
mean, they knew that to get close to these wary birds, they had to appeal to their instincts and behaviors.
So what kind of decoys did they use?
Well, they primarily used two types, hen decoys and jake decoys.
Okay.
So the hen decoys were designed to mimic female turkeys, to lure in those love-struck toms during mating season. And then the jake decoys represented the young male.
Okay. Oh, what was the purpose of that?
Well, the jake decoys were really good for triggering those territorial responses from the mature gobblers. Seeing a potential rival, those older toms would charge in, trying to assert dominance. And that's when the hunters could get a clean shot.
Oh, clever. So they were basically using the turkey's own behavior against them.
Exactly. And they were really strategic about where they placed the decoys, like they would carefully position them in clearings and fields using their knowledge of turkey movements to create a really natural and inviting scene.
So it's not just about having the decoy, it's about knowing how to use it.
Oh, yeah. It was a real art form.
That's cool. The book also has this other story about Nan Pan learning decoy techniques from his grandfather. And his grandfather really emphasizes the importance of strategic placement and timing to make the decoys look believable.
Right, like they were masters of illusion.
Yeah,
They understood the importance of making that whole scene so convincing that even a wary turkey wouldn't be able to resist.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
So they're attracting them with decoys. But then what? How do they actually make the kill?
That's where their ambush strategies come into play.
Okay, let's talk about that.
All right. So the Apache hunters, they were incredibly skilled at choosing the right locations for their ambushes. They would look for natural cover, like dense vegetation or rocky outcroppings.
Basically, they wanted to blend in.
Exactly. Become invisible. They were masters of camouflage,
Yeah.
and they would often choose elevated positions too.
Why was that?
It gave them a tactical advantage, allowed them to see approaching turkeys without being seen themselves, like playing a real-life game of hide and seek, but with much higher stakes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They were strategic about using the landscape, too,
Okay.
setting up near choke points,
Hill points, what are those?
areas like narrow canyons or dense thickets, places where turkeys were kind of forced to pass through, giving the hunters a better chance for a clean shot. So it's not just about hiding. It's about anticipating the turkey's movements and using the terrain to funnel them into a predictable path.
So they were really thinking ahead.
Oh, yeah, always a step ahead. And they paid attention to water sources, too, knowing that turkeys would often come down to drink, provided a predictable ambush point.
So they were really taking in all these different factors.
Absolutely. They weren't relying on luck.
Right.
They were stacking the odds in their favor through careful planning and observation. And they also considered the environmental factors like wind direction, making sure their scent wouldn't give them away, and the time of day, knowing when turkeys were most likely to be active and feeding. It was like they were taking a holistic approach.
It's pretty impressive when you think about it.
It is. It really shows their deep understanding of the natural world.
Mm.
They weren't just imposing their will on nature. They were working with it, understanding its rhythms and patterns and using that knowledge to their advantage. And they were also really good at analyzing their opponent's behavior.
What do you mean?
They would study turkey habits, travel routes, really learn their patterns and preferences, like building a psychological profile of their prey.
Whoa. So they were like turkey whisperers.
Kind of, yeah.
Oh.
They were constantly gathering intelligence, learning, and adapting their strategies. And, these ambush strategies, they weren't just for hunting.
Oh, real guy.
Yeah, they taught strategic thinking and adaptability, skills that were valuable in any situation, not just hunting.
With what?
Like navigating a challenging environment, outsmarting an opponent, even just making decisions in daily life.
Yeah, those are valuable skills for sure.
Absolutely. And, the book tells this really captivating story about Nan Tan. He's an Apache warrior, and he's learning these ambush techniques from a seasoned leader. It really shows how those skills were passed down through generations, ensuring the survival and success of their people.
That's a great point. It's like this knowledge was their legacy.
It was.
Okay, so we've talked about understanding turkey behavior, decoys, ambush strategies, but it sounds like there's something deeper going on here, right? Like a bigger picture.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not just about the hunt itself. It's about this deep respect and connection to nature that informed everything the Apache people did. And that's something we'll explore further in our next deep dive.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it. So we're back, still diving deep into turkey hunting the Apache way. Last time we were talking about how some of these Apache practices could apply to our lives now.
Yeah, it is fascinating how much we can learn from them even today.
I know, and this whole idea of a respect for nature, that was a big one for me. The Apache didn't see themselves as separate from nature. They were part of it.
Right, they understood that everything's interconnected, like a web,
Yeah.
and their actions had consequences.
Yeah. And that's something that's, I think it's easy to forget these days.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like we're living in a bubble,
Yeah.
like we're disconnected from the natural world, and we forget that our actions have a ripple effect on everything around us.
Totally. And I think, we take the Earth's resources for granted,
Yeah,
and we don't always think about the impact of our choices in the long term.
that's true.
But I think the Apache way of hunting reminds us to kind of slow down and observe and appreciate that interconnectedness you were talking about.
I agree. It's about recognizing that we're all part of this delicate balance, this web of life. And our actions affect not just us, but also, future generations.
It's like that saying, we don't inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children.
That's a good one. And it's not just about the environment either. The Apache really valued community and cooperation too. Like hunting wasn't just a solo thing for them. It was a shared activity, brought people together.
So it was more about the bonds and, working together.
Exactly. It was about strengthening that community. Working together, sharing the responsibility, the knowledge, and then sharing the rewards too.
Yeah, and those are values that are important everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Not just hunting.
Absolutely. I mean, you think about it, a family, a workplace, even on a global scale. We all benefit from cooperation and shared responsibility.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's
Okay.
about supporting each other, right?
Right.
And working together to overcome challenges.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's sometimes missing, in our world today where everyone's so individualistic,
Yeah.
like we're so focused on our own goals that we forget the power of doing things together.
Yeah. I hear you. The Apache way of hunting is a good reminder that we're stronger together.
That's a good point. Now, another thing that the book talked about that I thought was cool was the idea of taking only what you need, and using every part of the animal or resource.
Right.
They didn't waste anything.
Yeah, that's right. They understood the value of every feather, every bone, every piece of meat.
Yeah, nothing went to waste.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
It's a really good lesson in sustainability.
And respect. Respect for the animal.
Yeah, for sure.
And we can apply that principle to a lot of areas in life,
Like how?
like being mindful of what we consume, reducing waste, appreciating the resources we have.
Yeah, it's about being more conscious about our choices, right?
Yeah, finding that balance between taking and giving back.
I like that. It's a good way to put it.
It's about understanding that success, true success, isn't measured by how much we acquire, but by how much we contribute.
That's a really good point. It's almost like a shift in perspective,
Yeah.
moving away from that mindset of scarcity to a mindset of abundance and gratitude.
I like that. It's not always easy, though.
Yeah.
Especially in a world that's constantly telling us to buy more, accumulate more.
Right. Always wanting more.
Yeah.
But living in harmony with nature, with our community, it takes effort, but it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, it is. It's like we're creating a more sustainable future,
Yeah.
for ourselves, our communities, for the planet,
Thinking long term,
long term. Yeah.
recognizing that what we do today affects, tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And it brings us back to this idea of hunting as a teacher, right?
Right.
It's about more than just, killing an animal.
No.
It's about learning from the experience, developing patience, perseverance, and that respect for nature we were talking about.
Exactly.
And those lessons, you can apply those to anything.
To any challenge we face in life, yeah.
So how can we do that? How can we develop that awareness and respect in our everyday lives? Like, how do we take these principles and apply them even if we don't hunt?
I think it starts with simple things, like spending time in nature, just observing, appreciating the connections between all living things, practicing gratitude, for the resources we have, reducing our waste, and making choices that support our communities.
It's about slowing down, right?
Slowing down, paying attention, making conscious choices that reflect our values.
And recognizing that we're all connected.
Yes, we're all connected, and our actions have consequences, that ripple out much farther than we realize.
Yeah.
The Apache way of hunting, it's a really good reminder of that interconnectedness. It's a philosophy that can lead us towards a more sustainable, harmonious, and fulfilling way of life.
Okay, so we've talked about the philosophy, but what about the actual skills? The hunting techniques. Like,
Right.
what were some of the things that stood out to you from the book?
Well, one thing that really impressed me was their deep understanding of turkey behavior. They weren't just running around chasing turkeys, they were studying them, learning their patterns and habits.
So it's like they could read the forest?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
they could anticipate the turkey's every move.
Wow.
They knew all the different calls, what they meant, how to use them to attract the turkeys.
Yeah, we talked about that.
And their decoy tactics were really clever. They knew how to create a scene, a believable scene that would trick even the smartest turkey.
Yeah, they were masters of illusion, we said.
It's right.
So they weren't just hunters, they were like naturalists,
Yeah, observers,
strategists.
master strategists, yeah.
That's amazing. And their ambush techniques, I mean, they were so good at blending in with the environment.
Right. They knew how to choose the right spot, use natural cover, and become practically invisible to their prey. Stealthy.
Yeah, masters of stealth and camouflage.
And it's important to remember, these weren't just random techniques they were using.
Right.
This was knowledge that had been passed down for generations.
Generations, yeah.
They were always refining their methods.
Yeah, constantly learning.
Learning from their experiences, their mistakes, and then they would share that knowledge.
It was a continuous process.
So it wasn't just about following a set of rules. You had to understand the environment and adapt.
Yeah, adapt your strategies.
And that's something we can all learn from, right?
Absolutely.
That ability to observe, analyze, adapt. I mean, those are essential skills for anything.
Yeah, no matter what you're doing, whether you're hunting or just navigating life's challenges,
Yeah, it's about being resourceful and resilient.
always willing to learn and adapt. That's what the Apache way of hunting teaches us. That true mastery comes from that deep connection to the environment
Yeah.
and a willingness to keep evolving our strategies. So we've talked about the skills, the philosophy, but there's one more crucial piece of this Apache way of hunting that we need to talk about,
Oh, yeah. What's that?
and that's the spiritual connection. So we're back for the final part of our deep dive into turkey hunting the Apache way. And last time we were talking about how the Apache philosophy of hunting, it goes way beyond just the practical stuff. It's about respect for nature and sustainability and really that idea that everything's connected.
Right. And it's really incredible how these ideas were like woven into their whole culture, their hunting traditions. They weren't just about survival. They were part of their beliefs, their social structure, their whole way of life.
It's what makes this book so interesting. It's like we're getting this glimpse into a whole different way of being, you know. And one of the things that I found really striking was this emphasis on community.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. For the Apache, hunting, it wasn't a solo activity. It was something they did together. And it actually brought them closer. It strengthened their bonds. It reinforced that shared identity they had.
So it was like a team effort then.
Exactly. It was a team effort. Everyone was contributing their skills, their knowledge to make sure they succeeded. They'd hunt in groups. They'd share the responsibility, the knowledge, and the rewards too. And it wasn't just about the hunt itself. It was about the preparation. It was about the storytelling, the feasts, everything that came after. It was a collective thing that really built that sense of community.
It sounds like it was more than just getting food. It was like this glue that held everyone together.
That's a great way to put it. And it wasn't just practical, it was also spiritual, which further strengthened their community.
Yeah, we touched on that before, but I'd love to hear more about the spiritual side of hunting for the Apache.
Well, as we discussed, they believed everything had a spirit. So they were very respectful when they hunted. They recognized that they were taking a life.
It sounds like they understood that life was sacred.
Exactly. And this wasn't just an individual belief, it was shared by the whole community.
So it brought them together, having that shared belief system.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of these shared beliefs were expressed through their rituals and ceremonies. Like before a hunt, they'd often perform these ceremonies to ask for guidance and success. They recognized the power of the spirits. And then after a successful hunt, they would always give thanks, honoring the spirit of the animal and recognizing its sacrifice.
So it sounds like they really got that they were connected to everything, like that their survival depended on the whole ecosystem.
That's a key takeaway. They understood that taking a life was a serious thing. It was sacred, and it required humility and gratitude, recognizing that balance that keeps everything going.
I think that's something we've kind of lost touch with. Today, we tend to see nature as something separate, something we can control or exploit.
Right, like it's there to serve us.
Yeah, we've disconnected from those rhythms, those ancient cycles that really govern life on Earth. But the Apache, they remind us that we're not separate from nature. We're part of it. And what we do affects the whole web of life.
Right. And it's a powerful reminder that we need to find that reverence again, that understanding that we're connected to the health of the planet, it affects our own well-being.
Absolutely. The Apache, with their traditions, they offer a really good model for how we could live in better harmony with nature, and with each other.
Now, the book also mentions the role of women in all of this, and it made me think about how often that gets overlooked, when we talk about hunting.
Right, you often only hear about the men going out and doing the hunting.
Yeah, but it sounds like it was more than that. Oh, definitely. While men often did the hunting, women were essential too. I mean, they prepared the hunters, making sure they had food and clothing and the tools they needed. And when the hunters came back, it was the women who processed everything, preserving the meat and making clothes and other things from the hides and feathers.
So it's a whole community effort.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone working together. And what's cool is the book makes it clear that this division of labor wasn't seen as like, one being better than the other. It was about recognizing different skills, different strengths.
Everyone had a role to play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And everyone was valued. It's a message that's really relevant even today, especially with all the conversations about gender roles.
It really is. Like the Apaches are showing us that real strength comes from diversity, from recognizing what everyone brings to the table, no matter their gender.
Yes. It's about working together, supporting each other, to reach those common goals. And that actually leads us to another important part of their traditions, mentorship.
Oh, yeah. Tell me more about that. It's always fascinating to me how knowledge was passed down in cultures like this.
Well, the Apache, they knew that knowledge and experience, that was valuable stuff. So they had this really strong tradition of mentorship. Experienced hunters would take the younger ones under their wing and they'd teach them the skills, all the things they needed to know to be good hunters.
So it wasn't just about the technical skills, right?
Right. It was about being a responsible member of the community, respecting the natural world, upholding their traditions. It was the whole package. The mentors would share everything, their wisdom, their stories, their values. They'd emphasize the importance of patience, observation, and respecting the animal. They made sure that the young hunters understood the ethics behind it all, so those traditions would continue.
It's a beautiful tradition.
Yeah.
It makes me think about how today we're so focused on individual achievement that we've kind of forgotten about this idea of passing down knowledge, that wisdom that comes from experience.
I hear you. Imagine if we had more people, more experienced people who were willing to mentor, not just in hunting, but in anything,
Yeah.
right? In life. It could make such a difference in our families, our communities, even the whole world, if we made that a priority, that sharing of knowledge and connecting different generations.
I love that. Before we wrap up, I wanted to mention one more thing that really resonated with me from the book. That's the power of storytelling.
Oh, yeah. That was such a big part of their culture and their hunting stories. They were woven into all of it.
It's amazing how powerful a good story can be, right?
Yeah.
For connecting with people, sharing knowledge, keeping those traditions alive.
It's like a living history, Those stories keep those lessons and memories alive. And for the Apache, it was more than just entertainment. Their stories they were used to teach, to inspire, to connect them to their past, and to help them imagine their future. They'd sit around the fire, share those stories about their hunts, their ancestors, the lessons they learned. And all of that, it brought them together, gave them a sense of purpose.
It's incredible how something as simple as sharing a story can be so powerful for both individuals and communities.
I know, right? It makes you think about the stories we tell today. What are we passing on? Are we using stories to connect with each other, to inspire, to share what we've learned? It's something to think about.
It is. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into turkey hunting the Apache way.
It's been a great journey, looking at not just how they hunted, but their whole philosophy, their culture, all that wisdom behind it all.
It's been amazing to learn about the Apache people, how they were connected to nature, their respect for life, and how they found that harmony with the world around them.
And I think the biggest thing we can take away from all of this is that Apache way of hunting, it has lessons for all of us, whether we hunt or not. It reminds us that we're all connected, our actions matter, and that real success, it's about balance, balance with nature and with each other.
So well said. And if anyone's interested in learning more, definitely check out Turkey Hunting the Apache Way by Oliver Shadowhawk Stone. You'll find a link in our show notes.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those minds curious.